and lots that has been on screen as well. You did it to me again, Dan.
Maybe.
In the middle of a sentence. But that's your favorite thing to do, isn't it?
It is. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Unready Room. I'm, of course, Dan Gunther. With me, of course, is Brandi Jackola.
Hi.
Yay! We're back. Star Trek's back.
Star Trek's back.
Oh, man. So yeah, we're here. We're as unready as ever. And yeah, Strange New Worlds. Love this series. I think this is going to be a stretch of 10 episodes of us gushing. I'm assuming. I don't know. I haven't seen them all yet, but I can probably bet. We were already gushing before we even went live, talking about a bunch of stuff about this episode that we'll all get to as this discussion continues. So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, of course, to the people who are joining us after the fact and watching this later. We really appreciate all of you. Thank you so very much. So yeah, but a special shout out to those of you who are joining us in the chat live, seeing familiar faces as usual. Welcome everybody. It's been tough a few weeks without Star Trek, but we're back.
Yeah, I miss this when we're not doing it. I really do. It's just it's always the highlight of my week. We know that. I've said that before. You've said that before. It's the highlight of my week. And so when I don't have that, I go into withdrawal and I seek approval elsewhere. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. There's no one for me but you, Dan, when it comes to live shows.
Well, Tristan, I love this. I got to reactivate your weekly alarm on your phone. I would not be a true YouTuber if I didn't say smash that bell.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, to get notifications when we go live and when there's a new video. So yeah. Anyway,
gotta do it.
Yeah, that's a good point too, Wellington. The sweetness of this is heightened when it's gone, right? So yeah, that's a good point. I really enjoy doing this and I'm so excited to be doing it again.
Yeah, and shout out to Josh Turnbull, who is finally here for the show live. I'm assuming that's your first live one.
Hey Josh, welcome.
Glad to have you.
All right. Well, yeah, we're here to talk about the season 2 premiere of Strange New Worlds, The Broken Circle, which, despite all of my whatever, I cannot stop thinking of Johnny Cash singing "The Circle Won't Be Broken" by and by. Every time I see the title, it just won't escape my brain.
Same.
But that's something I have to live with.
We do what we can do. That's all we can do.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, we start out with let's start at the very beginning, the last season on Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and then showing us some stuff from season 1 of Discovery.
Season 2 of Discovery.
Oh no, there was first episode.
Oh no, you're right. You're right. There was some and there was some from season 2 because we saw, Pike in the Discovery uniform.
Yeah.
So well, let's be honest, Pike looks good in everything.
This is true. But yeah, we're kind of given an indication early on. We're going to be talking about Klingons and the Klingon War, and kind of a reminder that the Enterprise sat out the Klingon War. They were held in reserve by Starfleet, and this episode is going to be basically about a cabal of Federation and Klingon people that are trying to reignite hostilities between the two powers, which kind of makes this like a spiritual prequel to Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country, which I think it was Patrick or Tristan pointed out in the Positively Trek discussion group. I can't remember who said that, but that was a very good point.
Indeed. And the sad fact of the matter is, and this is true in real life, is that war is profitable for the people who, cause the war. They're the ones that want to profit. And of course, that's what's going on here. So it's certainly very apt for the many situations through history and even going on now that whenever somebody starts a war, there it's not because necessarily hate somebody. There are people who are going to profit millions, if not billions of dollars from that
Mhm.
war.
Absolutely. And, it's sad that that's a fact, but, yeah, unfortunately, true in the 23rd century as well, apparently, which,
Yeah.
is also sad. But, the one story that's getting sidelined for this week, of course, is the cliffhanger from season 1 with Una and her whole situation, which leads to Pike leaving the Enterprise for a few days to go track down a lawyer, it sounds like, which is fun and adds an interesting dynamic, leaving Spock in command for what I assume is his first command,
Mm,
by the sounds of it. And that's going to give it's an interesting choice for the season premiere to kind of sideline your captain for the episode. It works really well. I love the dynamic of the Enterprise crew with Spock in charge, and the kind of gentle ribbing he gets from the crew a little bit, and his whole command style, I guess.
indeed. Yeah, I've been waiting for Spock to be acting captain at some point, but, we still have a first officer, except she's in jail right now, so it made sense if they were going to do this to do it before, they deal with Una and what's
Mhm.
going on with her. So, I'm glad that they actually made this the season premiere because it disrupted expectations. I think everybody was expecting to see Una's trial and whatnot,
Mhm.
and they're like, "No, no, 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 you're gonna have to wait." And did I feel bad about that at all? No, because you know how I love my Spock, and I love that he's acting captain for 5 minutes and is gonna steal the Enterprise because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? It's only logical.
Absolutely, yeah, and I mean, I was kind of thinking about this in terms of Spock's career as a whole and
Mm,
how he's been portrayed over the years, and if you really think about it, the number of times that he goes off half-cocked based on logic is kind of ridiculous. Like, stealing the Enterprise again in the menagerie to help out Pike, obviously,
yeah,
is kind of the big one that resonates here. But, like, even leaving the Enterprise in the spacesuit to enter V'ger in the motion picture without telling anybody, um, I even think of, like, him going off to Romulus, Starfleet thinking he's defected because he's gonna go work on reunification. Like, he
mhm.
kind of does these things where he's like, "Well, I made a decision, I'm just gonna go do this," and yeah, we see the start
He's
of that here basically.
he's playing what we humans call a hunch.
Mhm. A Vulcan with a hunch.
Yes.
That now that's new. Oh, man.
Yep.
Yeah, so Spock's in command. They get this distress call from La'an, who, as we know from last season, had left to track down Oriana's parents, the girl who's the survivor of the Gorn attack. And April says, "No, you're not going. We don't want to rile up the Klingons." And Spock says, a la Kirk would much later, "I am therefore going anyway."
Yes. Yes, and it gives everybody the option, of course, to report him if necessary, and, of course, nobody does, because this is Spock. There
Mhm.
this is not some half-cocked idiot who just is like, "Huh, well, they said no, and that makes me angry, so I'm gonna do it just to defy them." No, he's being logical about his hunch, which is kind of counterintuitive, but there it is. It's that human half of him.
Mhm. Well, and not only that, we also, of course, from last season know that his emotional control has been compromised somewhat,
Mm,
right? Like, he lowered those barriers and he's not having an easy time getting them back up. And that's resulting in a number of things. He's stressed. He has high levels of stress, I guess. And Mbenga prescribes music to help him deal with that. giving him the Vulcan Cathyra or the Vulcan lute or the Vulcan lyre, depending on which source you're looking at for what the instrument is referred to as. And I thought that was kind of a neat little tie-in to later Trek that,
Mm,
um, he obviously didn't, he's learned to play it before, but him relying on that as something to kind of bring his stress levels down, I really appreciate, and it kind of makes me recontextualize when we see him playing it in the original series. It's like, oh, is there a little bit of stress going on? Is that why he's playing it in that moment? It's kind of cool.
yes, and I love it because Ethan plays cello, so stringed instruments are certainly not a stranger to him. So so I was waiting for that. I think it might actually technically best be described as a lyre because lutes tend to have a longer neck, sort of like
Mhm.
a ukulele or guitar. So I think technically it should be referred to as a lyre, but that's just, my
Depending
guess.
on which writer's writing the script at the time, it's been
Exactly.
referred to, yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah.
A small stringed instrument that isn't, a guitar
Yeah.
or such.
I think Cathyra comes from a book, I believe,
Mm.
and that would probably be an author saying like, I don't know, let's just give it an alien name because it's not analogous necessarily to a. So I like that. I don't know if that's been used in canon, but I like that one.
I like it too, Kathyra. It's a nice word. S
Hmm.
I'm just gonna go with that.
So the other aspect of Spock's life that this is kind of impacting is his relationship with a certain medical practitioner aboard the ship. And
Mm.
the so before we get to the stuff at the end of the episode, obviously, even just the looks between them, here, Spock immediately becoming like stressed again when she comes in and hurrying off. The other thing I want to say is the flip side of it too. Spock being a rebel and saying we're going to steal the Enterprise, and then the camera goes to Chapel, and every time she looks at Spock in this episode, she's like, "Oh, damn."
Yeah.
Every time, and I love it.
Well, and she even says that, later in the episode, and I think that's when they're talking to La'an after they get to, Kajitar 4, I guess it is. Kajitar sounds like something familiar, and I can't even explain why. But anyway,
Mm.
um, yeah, because I can't remember. Some La'an says something, and Chapel says, "Vulcans can surprise you."
Yeah. A very loaded statement there, I think, for
Yeah.
sure.
Indeed. Plus, the 2 of them have such great chemistry, like, the 2
They really
actors have
do.
honestly, both of them could have I mean, each one of them could have chemistry with a rock. They don't even need
This
they
is
could have the
true.
most uncharismatic person opposite them and still have chemistry with them. They're just
Mhm.
that good. And that's not something you can create, that's just something that happens, and, yeah, I love to watch that.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely true, and I mean, we see that with Ethan Peck certainly and Jess Bush, but like Ethan Peck and the person who plays T'Pring, I can't remember her name, but like
Gia
they're
Sandu.
thank you. Yes, they're fire when they're on screen together too. And even like hints we're getting of future episodes with Boimler saying there's a bit of a bromance. Like I bet you there's some tension there that's palpable as well.
Oh, I'm gonna write so much fan fiction. Anyway, I'm just kidding, I'm kidding. I never
Spoiler?
a spoiler. Yeah. Oh, anyway, I can't wait for that episode. Can't wait for that episode. So, because, Jack and Ethan get on very well together, so they're like super buds now.
Yeah.
I think that's just kind of the way the Star Trek family is, you know?
Yeah. I think so.
Instant buds no matter what cast you're interacting with.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so yeah, they're gonna set out with the Enterprise. They're stealing it. We're introduced to Pelia, who's the engineer in charge of this inspection. And right off the bat, before she even says a word, I love her Like,
Mhm.
when the alarm starts and all the engineers start scrambling and packing her stuff up, she just kinda looks and is like, "No, head straight to the bridge." She's like, "No, I just spent 3 days inspecting this warp core. It's not about to breach. What's going on here?" I love her.
Yeah, the way that she just comes in and she's just looking at things and the red alert's going on and everybody's really tense. They're like, "What? Why didn't she leave?" It's just and she's just like, yes." And when Spock says that he is, alarmed that, that she's not, uh, worried about this, and she's like, "At the textbook signs of a warp core breach? You did know I teach a course at Starfleet Academy about warp core breaches." No, I did not." Well,
If you'd taken it, you'd know that.
yeah. S Well, ho how long has she been teaching there? I mean, was she teaching there when Spock was in the academy? It's probable.
Very possible, yeah.
So, yeah, because I don't know how long she's been there. She never really says that, so but
Mhm.
yeah, every time Carol Kane is on screen, it doesn't matter what she's in, she is golden. You are drawn to her, and this is no exception. She's like the only
Mhm.
person that could match the charisma of all of this ready formed family that she's coming into. And if you watch The Ready Room, which I do recommend, she talks about that, how she was worried a little bit about going
Hmm.
into that with all these people who have already cemented these relationships. And she got there and she's like, I had nothing to worry about, nothing at all.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm really glad. I mean, I'm not surprised at all that the Star Trek family is so welcoming to her because, yeah, agreed 100%. I would even say a world treasure, but yes,
Hmm.
she is amazing. Um,
Yes.
and like everyone's reactions to her are so good, like how she completely knocks Spock off his center, and he's just like that's the first time I've seen Spock fumble, I think, and
Hmm.
it was great. And my favorite little bit, I love Ortegas every time, and
Yes.
when she's like, release the whatever, do the thing, and expel warp plasma from this nacelles. Can you do that? And she's like, I could, but turns to Spock, should I? I just love her.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and, this is when we find out that she's Lanthanite, which is a
Mhm.
new race. It is not something that has been in Trek before, so everybody who's scrambling to look it up and can't find anything well, there's probably stuff on Memory Alpha now that the episode is out,
They
but,
were very fast on that,
yes,
yeah.
I'm sure they were. They probably have the screeners and we're
I'm
getting
assuming,
everything
yeah.
prepared to drop.
They probably
So,
just upload the articles on the day and that
yeah.
they've already spent weeks writing.
Yeah, agreed, agreed, and I do like how Spock finally gets his balance back, and he's like, "Well, as long as you're theorizing, can you theorize what reason someone would have to steal the Enterprise?" No, what reason someone would have to simulate the warp core breach, and, she said, "Well, it would to be to steal the Enterprise."
Or do you want to tell me that's not what's happening here? He's like, "Buh."
Yeah. So, and then she says, that she, knew his mother
Mhm.
and, that Vulcans don't do things without a good reason. And do you have a good reason?
I, this opens the possibility, and I'm hopeful at some point we'll see Mia Kirshner back as Amanda, because
Mhm.
I really liked her take on that character, and,
Yeah.
uh, you know, we'll get some great scenes between her and Pelia if she comes back, so that's reason enough to want that, right? So I could
Yes.
see them making fun of Spock and ribbing him a little bit. I don't know. It'd be fun.
Yes, phew, well, I would love to see her again. So, I'm hoping for that too. Fingers
Mhm.
crossed because we didn't get to see her at all in season 1. And, we know Sarek's not gonna show up on the ship
No.
because, That's not gonna happen till original series.
Yeah, they're in the not talking phase right now.
Yeah. Well, they kind of are for the rest of their lives, aren't they?
Yeah,
They
until
barely
a certain
tolerate
point,
each
yeah.
other's yeah. They barely well, yeah. Next Gen does actually fix a lot of
Mhm.
that for Spock because of Picard having all the knowledge that he did from melding with Sarek so that he could do these negotiations and,
Yeah.
yeah, it's, and then he shares, he mind melds with Spock, and Spock is able to experience all of that, and that made me weep. That
Mhm.
made me weep.
Um, yeah, so I one more thing about Pelia, I've seen people speculating, and I kind of wonder this myself a little bit. We have seen an immortal human being in Star Trek before, and that was
Mhm.
Flint in the original series episode Requiem for Methuselah. And the more I think about it, the more I think there's two different things going on there. They could be related, but for Flint, he almost seemed like when he was recounting his past that he was surprised that he survived. I'm assuming the Lanthanites kind of know who they are and are keeping hidden from humanity and stuff. That said, he lies to Kirk and Spock and them for most of the episode. He could be lying about that too, keeping his nature secret or something. But it's hard to take something that's 50 years old and apply new continuity to it retroactively. So I don't think we're going to get a satisfying answer either way. But it's possible that Flint could be a Lanthanite, but he might also not be. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, and from what I wanna say that this was also on the Ready Room, is the writers or somebody, I think it was one of the writers, possibly, director, can't remember, was talking about how the Lanthanites were new and that they,
Mm,
they didn't want to attach to the Elorians and stuff like that,
mm.
but, I could be misconstruing that with something else that I read. I'm 50 now, all bets are off with my memory, so there you go.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is Flint, his immortality started to wear off, I guess, after he left Earth. So, unless they introduce something like that with Pelia, I'm gonna say they're probably different, but I don't know.
Yeah, I really don't think that's the case with Pelia because,
Mhm.
it seems to me like she's been a lot of places.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. This went through my head too. I wonder if she met Guinan, like just traded notes at some point.
hmm,
It's an
it's
interesting thought.
possible. It's certainly possible.
Uh, and that's a good point too.
Thank you, TJ. That's
I love it.
perfect.
So okay, we got to talk about Spock's thing. Everybody who sits in the chair has a thing. We saw it in the trailers, obviously, and all that sort of stuff. But it's a cute moment here. It's a little extended from what we see in the trailers. We learn that Ortegas is workshopping Vamonos, which is cool. Um,
Which is actually it's Vamonos, and it was
mhm.
spelled wrong in the subtitles as well.
Oh, was
So
it? I
not
didn't read the subtitles.
Yeah,
So.
it's Vamonous because
Mhm.
I took Spanish, and so I know. And
Yeah.
it's different from vamos because, vamonos means more to leave a place, to just, let's go. So, but vamos also means let's go, but it usually means to go, to a place.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I,
the
d- I definitely heard Vamonos when she said it. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yes, she did. But it was misspelled in subtitles. Please, please,
Hmm.
come on. You have a way to look this stuff up on the internet, guys. Come on.
So, quick question, Brady. What would yours be? I know this is something that gets asked all the time, but I don't think I've ever asked you what your go to warp would be.
I haven't actually thought of it about it ever. I've never because I would never be a captain. Too much responsibility. I don't want to be top of the food chain. Thank you, no. I would like to be a grunt. Maybe Uh, Chief Science Officer, okay, yeah, but not Captain.
Ah, but your captain gets called away to look for a lawyer for his first officer, and you're placed in command. Suddenly,
Damn
you have to
it.
order you to go to warp.
Um, Punch It.
Punch It's good. Punch It's good. That's a classic.
This first thing that came to mind.
Let's kick this can. I like Mossies. That would be good.
Mhm.
Slap it. All right.
Slap it.
I kind of like Allons-y, I think would be fun. Um
Mhm.
but also just cuz I'm from Alberta and there's a little bit of a rednecky type thing here. I think Giver might be kind of a good one. Giver.
Could also do, "Let's hit the road."
Yeah. Yeah, that works. Warp
Yeah.
me. That's classic.
Mhm. I didn't like it at first, but it grows on you.
It
You
does. Yeah,
know?
at first you're
Really
like,
grows
"Ugh,"
on you.
but yeah, I like it. Yeah, anyway, we'll move on from that because as some have said, it's getting a bit old, but I enjoyed the
Yeah.
Spock bit in this one for sure.
Yeah, my husband, has already thought of this, you know, and his is "Давай," which is Russian for "let's go,"
Oh, I
as
like
you can
that.
see in the chat, so but, yeah, I
Nice.
got nothing.
Giddy up. Okay. That's good. That would Pike should have pulled that one, I think, at some point.
Yeah, well, yeah, especially in the South, it's more like "Giddy up." It's 2 syllables, "Giddy up."
Perfect. All right. So we've got La'an on this planet. They warp over, they make contact with her and find out, yay, she's found Oriana's parents. That's cool. But she's kind of uncovered this plot. There's people plotting to start up this war again, and they're going to investigate that and try and figure out what's going on. In the meantime, Dr. Mbenga and Chapel are going to bring medical supplies to um, these people who are suffering from ion radiation, from photon torpedoes, they determine. And that's when they get kidnapped by the Klingons. And you pointed something out about the Klingon woman who captures them that I hadn't realized, but that is awesome.
Yeah, that Klingon is played by Hannah Spear, who also played Serana, and the other Kelpian whose name I can't remember from season 3, Doctor something. I
Yeah.
should have looked it up. My apologies for not doing that before the show. So, yeah, it was, nice to see her again and, nice to see more of her face, her actual face.
Yeah. And I'm also just looking up the character now. I didn't realize this name is only from the closing credits, but the character's name is Jen.
Jen.
So
Mhm.
yet another non-human named Jen. I wonder if that's short for Jennifer. But it'd be Jennifer, but with like a bunch of apostrophes in there. It's like
Yeah,
Jennifer.
or it could be Janelle, or it could be, uh, I don't know what else. But anyway, yeah, Jennifer. Jennifer, yeah, Jennifer the Klingon. Or
One
just
person
just
called her
Jen.
Jenny, but he didn't live to tell the tale.
Yeah, he died immediately.
Mhm. But yeah, she was somebody, and she did stick out to me. I didn't look up the actor. I didn't realize it was Hannah Spear, but she stuck out to me because she's very striking and
Mm,
very different from the other Klingons, right? So yeah, there was definitely something really like unique about her that I thought, oh, that was really cool. She kind of stuck out. There's another Klingon later on who also sticks out to me as being quite unique, who we'll talk about when we get there. But
indeed.
um, yeah. Oh, I also love that too. Yeah, Oriana,
Mhm.
two mommies. That was great. That was awesome.
Yes, representation matters.
Absolutely. 100%. There we go. That's kind of how I was picturing Jennifer.
Perfect. Jennifer. Jennifer.
And yeah, I've seen a few people commenting this that she kind of had a Kalar aspect to her, and yeah, I could buy that. Yeah.
Yes, very, very tall, very unconcerned what people think of her until you cross her. sort
Mhm.
of thing, and because she's like, "Oh, I hate to bust up your plans, but you're coming with me," basically. I love the way that she said it, "Bust up your plans."
Mhm. So,
Yeah.
yeah, they get captured and taken aboard this ship that's, underground in the caverns there, a Federation starship that, looks to have been built by the Klingons, probably cobbled together from, parts left over from the war, I'm assuming, things like that. Interestingly, later Mitchell describes it as crossfield class or possibly a crossfield class. I think definitely the saucer
The
is
saucer, absolutely.
absolutely, and, so I think that's what she was basing that on. I think it's a kit bash, but,
Mhm.
that was kind of
Agreed.
a for those who don't know, Crossfield class the class of the Discovery of from Star Trek Discovery, and, as DJ Kitty Cat points out here, they reused the Discovery sets for the interiors, which was a nice little touch there. I thought that was
Oh,
cool.
yeah. Oh, I definitely recognize that because when they're in that sick bay treating Klingons, I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh, hell yeah. That is absolutely Discovery sets.
Yep.
Nice."
So that was cool. That was, an interesting little tie back or callback there. But yeah, the plan obviously is to use this ship to stage like a false flag attack kind of thing and ignite hostilities and stuff. And Mbenga and Chapel need to figure out how to warn the Enterprise and keep that from happening and stuff. So, um, yeah, the one issue I kind of had with the episode, not necessarily the idea behind it, more the execution is Chapel and Mbenga fighting their way through the ship using this kind of adrenaline stuff that makes them super strong and able to take on the Klingons and stuff. I didn't necessarily have a problem with that. I just felt that the fight scenes kind of dragged on and I was getting a bit bored with it.
Really? Because I had the exact opposite
Hmm.
reaction because it reminded me of my previous favorite hallway fight scene, which was in the Daredevil series.
Oh yeah.
And this one was succeeded it because, not only woman fighting, and kicking everyone's butt, but also it was much better lit. I could
Hmm.
actually see things more easily. Plus, I know from, the Ready Room that Babs and Jess had a blast doing that scene.
Yeah.
Absolute blast. And in fact, they showed them practicing that part where Mbenga picks, basically choke slams a Klingon onto the floor, and I watched him do that in real time, and I was like, "Dude got skills, and that stunt guy's amazing."
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
I
I can appreciate how you felt about that, though, it
yeah.
just wasn't your thing, and that's fine.
Wasn't really my thing. The thing that bugged me more than anything though was the kind of reuse of torture as a means of getting information. I'm just it doesn't work, and B, I hate when TV shows are like, "Hey, this works." And
Yeah, and I understand that, and at the same time, we're seeing some of Mbenga's past, and it's not pristine.
yeah.
So, I think that was more a demonstration of what we don't know
Mhm.
about our good doctor. But I understand, I totally understand because yeah, again, the whole torture thing, the thing is though it would work with a Klingon, so because
Mm.
that's kinda how they roll.
I guess, yeah.
But
Yeah.
in any case, that's not the point, but I don't know how else they would have gotten the information at the same time, and that's
Mhm.
frustrating.
Yeah, for sure. Now, the one thing I will say is, Babs as Dr. Mbanga, the what he's able to communicate with just a look or just
Mm.
his eyes, like the depth of the pain and the horror that he's witnessed, how clearly that comes through. And when it comes through, um, the look that Chapel gives. knowing what it's doing to him and what it's doing
Mhm.
to her as well, but at the same time, like, worried for Dr. Mbenga, and all of that is so good. I really loved all of that.
Yeah. She was starting to feel scared, I think. Not necessarily for herself, but for him.
Mhm.
So, because he's already admitted, if you're asking if this is bringing it all back, yeah, it is, but I'm in control. But then he
Yeah.
wasn't, and that was scary.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, all of this leads to them getting trapped in an airlock, basically, and that being their only way out. And they've also, in the meantime, reprogrammed the ship's transmitter, basically, to send a message that says, "Enterprise, destroy this ship,"
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
with them on board.
Yes, because, heaven forbid the Klingons think of EV suits, and actually that makes
Mhm.
sense because it appears to me, because of they used what they could, they know that the ship is outclassed by a D7. They
Mhm.
know that. This is a suicide mission, is
Mhm.
what this is. This is basically they're dying with honor in their minds and
Mhm.
glory by doing this thing to reignite this war that will bring them all glory. They'll all go to Sto-Vo-Kor. And so, yeah, that occurred to me the second time I watched it. Not the first time, but the second time, because I thought, "Are they really that stupid?" And I thought, "No, it's not really stupidity. It's they don't plan on coming back. They
Nope.
don't plan on needing anything else except what they have there. They are there to go out and start a war, and they know that this fragile ship that they're on is probably gonna get destroyed."
Yeah. Speaking of D7s, that was a gorgeous ship.
Wasn't it so pretty? With the minute it warped in, I'm like, "Oh, a D7. Oh, look at
Mhm.
it. Look at it." And, oh, when it starts to come towards them and it's, like, preparing its guns to fire and everything, all of those little things.
Mhm.
Ship corn for Brandy.
Yeah, that was fun. Now, the captain is the other Klingon I'm talking about here. So we don't meet him until everything goes down. Basically, the Enterprise is chasing this ship. Um, they know that Dr. Mbenga and Chapel are on board, but they have to destroy it. Spock waits till the absolute last possible second to blow it up, at which point they've thrown themselves into space and are able to be beamed aboard by the Enterprise. Um, at huge risk to themselves.
Mm,
I guess we should talk about this before we get to the Klingon captain, because they beam them on board. Chapel is unconscious and not breathing. And that scene with her and Spock is terrific. And I couldn't help it, though, when he's over her and he says, "You don't die." He was like echoing us as Star Trek fans, because she lives on past. It's like, wait, you don't die. This
mhm.
isn't right. It was like he was calling upon the canon gods to say, "Oh, right," and bring her back.
We can't do that. Yeah, just the look on his face after he ordered the torpedoes to be fired, and the look on
Yeah,
his face thinking that he's killed Mbenga and Chapel, but mostly thinking about Chapel, let's be honest.
yeah.
And then they finally get the beacon signal from the helmet. Now, I was counting while as they were blown into space, and yes, it was less than a minute before
Mhm,
they were rescued, so they had not frozen completely to death. However, Mbenga lasted consciousness, for well more than 15 seconds, so
mhm. Unless he was jolted to consciousness by being beamed aboard or something, but
yeah, it's
yeah,
possible. But yeah, he was at about the 30-second mark when they were beamed aboard. So
it's impressive.
right, yeah, maybe the serum lasted longer in him or something, and
Lingering
so
effects, yeah,
yeah,
something like that.
possibly.
Yeah, that was intense, and Ethan Peck just delivers on Spock here. It's so good. Um, But yeah, and then the Klingon captain calls them. He goes back up to the bridge, and I love this Klingon captain. I got to grab his name here,
And
Captain
the
DeChalk.
chalk.
Yeah, I just love his whole manner and style of speaking, and Andrew Jackson, as we talked about before we started the live show, played this guy. I looked him up. I'm not really familiar with a lot of his work, but I know you are.
Yeah, I've seen him in many things, and I have heard him in more things, and I love the way he speaks, and I also, just love his facial expressions, and we get both of those during this scene between the 2 of them, and I just want to watch him a lot too. Can we have him as a recurring character? Because that would be neat. He's, like,
Oh,
my favorite Klingon captain.
yeah, like if we could have him as like a recurring antagonist slash sort of ally in the Klingon Empire after Spock impresses him so much in this episode,
Right.
I think that'd be pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Love to see him again.
Yeah, that would be cool. Um, that's an interesting thought. Really tying it to Star Trek 6 having the captain be Gorkon. I like that. That would be neat. Interesting thought.
Yeah, because it would explain how Spock, got in with the
Oh
Klingons
yeah.
to
Yeah.
negotiate and open a dialogue with Gorkon.
Mhm.
Maybe somewhere in Strange New Worlds, something like that might happen, you never know.
That would be pretty cool. That would be great.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so basically the detente is arrived at over a barrel of blood wine. This is Vulcan who is not like a Vulcan, uh, drinking with the Klingons. So that's a fun bit to the episode.
Yeah, drunk Spock. Love that. Love drunk Spock. Because he's got this expression on his face like, "I don't know if I wanna lay down or throw up. Which one should it be?" And the way he just walks, he's not staggering per se, but he misses his footing a little bit here and there. It's not overly done. It's just perfection.
We should also, Patrick makes a good point here. We should mention La'an matching the Klingon drink for drink at the beginning of the episode as well. My favorite part of that scene was probably just the Klingon's reaction every time, like, oh, and she's like, oh, it's kind of a weak batch, isn't it? Oh! Just getting
Was
more and
that
more angry.
watered down?
That's it. Yeah.
Don't try to hide half the wine in your beard.
That's great. Um, but yeah, hungover Spock
Yes. Could you
talking with
please lower the level of your voice, Edward?
Are you hungover, Spock? um, yeah, that whole bit and April basically issuing the punishment to Spock that it's his hangover. That's the punishment that he has now for what he did. Um, it's even they even hang a lantern on it with the Commodore telling him like you kind of let him off easy, and he says, well, we're going to need all the officers and ships we can have for what's coming, and we kind of see what that might be. This Gorn attack ship that's been detected in encroaching on Federation space, I guess.
Yeah. Um, Before that, though, Pelia decides that she wants to be the new chief engineer permanently.
Right. Yes.
And, I love her talk with drunk Spock, where she says, "You know what's the worst part of living almost forever?" And he says, "Losing the people that you love." "Oh, you sweet unVulcan Vulcan." And she says, "That's the pain shared by anyone who has a half-open heart." "No, it's
Mhm.
boredom!"
I did love that. Yeah. Um, and that's true. Like that's what it would be, right? Like
Mhm.
really when it comes down to it, yeah, that would be the worst part of, yeah, boredom. So she's
Yeah.
like, "This ship seems like a fun place. I kinda wanna tag along."
Yeah.
Lady, you
There's a
have
sh
no idea.
yeah. There's a shortage of boredom on that ship for sure.
Mhm.
And I really did love, Spock's face down with the Admiral because he's like, "Hey, I did what I believed was right, and I am ready to accept whatever punishment Starfleet sees fit." And he says, "Okay, well, that's yeah, the hangover is your punishment, but if it happens again, it's your commission." Echoes of the future, future, the menagerie, anyone. Um, so,
And I sincerely hope this will never happen again.
y no, it'll happen a few more times, actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
gonna happen a few more times. Sorry. Sorry about that, but yeah. Well, hey,
Yeah.
it's always necessary. Every time, it's necessary, right? And
Mhm.
every time that they've done that, they've averted a war. So, there you go.
Yeah. You know, it occurs to me just now with the creation of a character like Pelia, um, they have this franchise that spans all these different years, and they're always looking for ways to kind of cross things over, and you can only go to the time travel well so many times. So, yeah, let's create an immortal character who may pop up in, some sort of hypothetical 25th century show that comes out, or Discovery, or Starfleet Academy. I mean, she could very easily live to the 32nd century. I'd be cool with Carol Kane being the linchpin that ties the entire Star Trek universe together. Sure.
Yes. Works for me, and to think that when they contacted her and said that they wanted her for this role, she's like, "Are you sure you want me? This is the energy you want?" Like, "Yeah!"
Totally. Absolutely.
Yeah, and she's never done science fiction before, so, Carol, welcome to the family, both of science fiction and of Trek. We, love you already, and I
Mhm.
hope you stay for a long time.
Here, here. And what a way to start. Like, she's incredible. In an episode full of amazing performances, she still
Mm.
manages to, like, anytime she's on screen, just steal the scene, right? So,
Yes. Oh, another thing I really love about this episode is Uhura when they come
mhm.
to reboot comms and she's like, "Hell no. Hell no. This is my station. This is my station." And he's like, "Well, how many hails could you actually be getting?" And she shows him. And he's like, "Oh, only take a few minutes." And she's like, "Let me get secondary comms online." And he's still badgering her and she's like, "This is my station."
Mhm. And I loved Mitchell and Ortegas just kind of look at each other going, "Alright."
Yes. Also, here's my one complaint about this episode, and it's not really that big of a complaint, but when Mitchell goes into engineering, hey, if you're gonna go do something shifty, stop looking around looking shifty, Jenna. Come on,
Mhm.
come on.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And then, like, hitting the button and the alarms go off, she goes, "Ah." I'm like, "Stop
Yeah,
that."
just like, "What are you doing? That is as clandestine as you could possibly be." I mean, anyone looking at her would be like, "She's looking shifty. The hell's she
Mhm.
doing in here?"
Oh, man. So yeah. Uh, oh, okay. Final thing, though, to mention
Mhm.
with this episode, of course, is after it's over and it fades to black, that wonderful tribute to Nichelle Nichols, who, of course, we lost in the year since Strange New Worlds has been on the air for season one. Um, just a lovely tribute. I really, really loved that. That was lovely.
It made me cry.
Hmm.
I've watched it 4 times now, and it made me cry each time.
Yeah. Yeah. Very wonderful. I'm glad they did that. Um, Yeah. Oh, yeah, and also Ensign Uhura.
Yeah.
Absolutely. She's graduated. She's an ensign.
You
La'an's
go
like, "Wait, ensign."
you
Uh,
go away, you miss things.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, one person I wanted to bring up too, by the way, is apparently we don't have, I can't remember who played him, but Chief Kyle isn't in this season, is what somebody has
Yes.
mentioned, and we get, Chief J,
Mhm.
transporter operator. I have to admit, when I watched this the first time, I was like, "What is this 14-year-old kid doing operating the transporter?" Chief J is played by Noah Lamana, who is 32 years old. I would
Mhm.
never, ever have guessed that.
Yeah.
Does
They are
anybody
32 years
under
old.
35 just look like a kid to me now? Am I that old?
No. 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 No, that's not it. I mean, to be fair, Chief Kyle also looked like a child. So
Yes, I'm going to be a little crass here. He was referred to as the transporter twink in, season 1. I don't know,
yeah. Well,
by
I get
certain
apparently
people.
we have a new transporter twink.
We
Get
do
used to
have
it
a new
because
transporter twink.
yeah, Chief J is here to stay, and they're very welcome in my book. But at first I was like,
Here,
"Who
here.
the hell is this?" And then I started looking things up and, anyway.
They
But,
seem really, really cool, and I'm really happy
they
to
do.
have them on the show. So
Yes, agreed.
cool. That's all I wanted to say was I seriously thought, who is this, Doogie Howser kid coming to operate my transporter? But never mind. 32. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Wears it
Well,
very, very, very well.
honestly, um, some people okay, let's just stay out of the sun, look young forever. Vampires have it right. Sun
Mhm.
damage is the number 1 cause of aging. So,
I just realized they're a lanthanite. They're a real life
there you
lanthanite.
go.
That's
Real
it.
Lanthanite, real Lanthanite. So, gonna look like that for almost forever.
Mhm. Wonderful. Well, now that we've mentioned that, is there anything from this episode that we haven't talked about that you'd like to bring up?
Oh, I do love that, when Pike is putting Spock in charge and he says, "You won't even ever have to leave space dock," and Spock says, "What is the human
Space
expression?
Smith.
Famous last words."
Mhm. That was
I
good.
also I also loved seeing Starbase One from different angles, and I
Yes.
loved how they escaped by when they blow out the ionized plasma from the nacelles, and all of a sudden, all these alarms go off at the base, and they're, like, blowing the docking clamps, "Get away, get away, get away!" And the Enterprise just backs away and tilts well, upward. There's really no up and down in space, it's three-dimensional, and just goes right up the spire of Starbase. It's a beautiful shot. It's a beautiful
Mhm.
shot. Again, more ship porn for Brandi and Starbase porn as well. I loved seeing different aspects of it, and also crazy shuttle traffic going on in that
Yeah.
opening scene. It's like, I'm sure hope that there's a space traffic control person telling all those people where to go, because some of them are kinda almost hitting.
Yeah. Um, this is a good point. I feel like there's just like an outlet mall right on the border between Federation and Klingon space, and when you're getting your disguises to enter, that's just where you go. I think Giorgio and
Yeah.
La'an both kind of hit that place up.
Yeah, because Georgios was actually more of a cape and hood,
Mhm.
and, but I was looking at that. I watched that scene in, what was it? Point of Light, I believe, for season 2 of Discovery?
Yeah.
Point of Light, and I watched that scene again, and I carefully looked at the hood of the jacket and the sleeves underneath. She had this cape over it, sort of it was almost like, 2 pieces, and then looked at La'an's, and the way that La'an has the hood up is different because Georgiou had the bottom piece up to her chin so that it was hiding most of her face, but when it pulls down, it looked very much like how La'an's looked when it was pulled down, same pattern. So
Hmm.
it's quite possible that they reused the costumes.
It could be, yeah. Man, Brandy doing the research. That's awesome.
Uh, yeah, I needed to know. I needed to know.
Awesome. Well, I guess all that's left is for final thoughts and a rating for the Broken Circle, and that, of course, goes for the fine folks in the comments as well.
Yeah, I loved this episode. There's no surprise there. And I love drunk Spock. I love, Pelia. I love Spock being in charge for the first time. I love seeing Spock play the lyre, and just there are so many things going on in this episode, so many little things and also this really big thing, and I still firmly believe that the nacelles of that ship were definitely not Crossfield class, even though it was obviously a later model per se, but I still don't think that those were the right nacelles, that just looked wrong. in my personal opinion. Um, I enjoyed the hell out of this. Drunk Spock, love you forever. Don't get to see that very often, maybe never again. And so I give this one big Hannah spear.
Hmm,
Just
a
good
very
times all
tall
around.
rating.
Yes, very tall. Very tall.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I think, other than some quibbles I have with how some things were executed,
Yeah.
and how some Klingons were executed, I guess. Um,
Mm.
I really enjoyed it. I think there's a lot of really great character stuff in here. I love that Spock kind of gets the spotlight captaining the Enterprise for the first time, and stealing the Enterprise maybe a little bit on the nose, but I appreciated it. I think it's a nice little symmetry to what we get later in Star Trek. So, yeah, I'm going to say one really good barrel of blood wine that leaves Spock with the worst punishment he's ever gotten for stealing the Enterprise
So far.
so far. Yep.
Yeah.
Um, seems to be consensus 9 out of 10, 4 out of 5. Pretty high ratings here. So, yeah, I think most people seem to like this one.
Yeah. I really, really did. And again, disrupting expectations too. Well played. Very well played.
Mhm. Yeah, I like that. All right. Well, I guess that is it for this episode. Next week we'll be back with Ad Astra per Aspera, the second episode of the season. Um, and I'm really looking forward to that. I think we're going to have a lot to talk about with that one as well.
So
Um,
much. So much. I have 5 pages of notes.
ooh, wow. I better get cracking on my notes then. But yeah, Brandy, in the meantime, what have you got going on? I understand there's some things afoot in the Brandy Star Trek world.
Indeed. My Strange New Worlds podcast, Boldly Go, is back. And unfortunately, I am now without Suzanne because her health has prevented her from being able to continue the podcast. She's always had breathing problems for as long as I've known her, and they have only gotten worse to the point where she just wheezes all the time. And she just didn't feel like she could do a podcast with that. The editing would be a nightmare, in her words. And so I'm still actually currently looking for another permanent co-host, but in the meantime I have a lot of guests lined up, and so and some of them have the screeners, so I was able to get the newest episode out on the day that Strange New Worlds premiered for season 2. So that's good. I am very nervous about being without Suzanne, and feel like maybe listenership will fall off. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I can't really say for certain, but uh, it, I am wanting to keep it the women, and so I am looking for another female or female identifying co-host on a more permanent basis. So, but up for to the through the end of this season, I will have a, a few guests to help me out, and some of them will be on more than one episode. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be fun. I'm going to have some good conversations. So,
Nice.
and you
I
can
will
find that on Spotify podcasts and anywhere else like Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and all that sort of stuff.
Perfect. I will definitely be listening. So
Thank you. Oh, and
that's one you can
Brandywine12 on
count on.
Twitter. Yeah, I appreciate it. Brandywine12 on Twitter. Brandy dot no Brandywine dot at no excuse me Brandywine at ravenation.club on Mastodon. There you go. Instagram, I'm there as Brandy Jackola. So, if you care.
To quote Luke Skywalker in A New Hope, I care.
Thank you.
You can find me on Twitter at Kurtrats, Instagram at Kurtrats47, Mastodon at Kurtrats at mstdn.ca, and of course the Positively Trek podcast and here on this YouTube channel. And I do have a deep dive for this episode that I'm working on. It will be out soon. So, yeah.
Excellent.
That's it. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next week for Ad Astra per Aspera. And bye. Live long and prosper.
Live logs and proper.